Hi there, it's Roy from Sulphur City Sabers. End of November, we've just added some new stock to the store, and while I've got the mat in front of me, I thought I would answer a question that we commonly receive around thread compatibility for our Saber models. Obviously, in every overview model that you see on our product listings, you'll note that the Sabers will break down into component parts. So this raises the question, well, if I buy a couple of Sabers, are the parts interchangeable? And the answer to that is yes, no, and yes for compatibility. And also this addresses whether you can use things as staffs as well. So these four models here, okay. So sometimes you will find on a Saber that is manufactured, this thread here may be different to this thread here. That's not the case in the models I have in front of me, and certainly this applies to some of the models in our range as well. So if you are looking to do something weird and wonderful, always come and check with us. But this is just to demonstrate that there is a fairly high level of intercompatibility between the parts. So these four models here, for example, all have the same threads here and the same threads here, which means you can, if you own a couple of Sabers, in theory, start mixing things up a little bit. For example, the body section from our fine model will fit on our Padawan, and you can take the pommel off the Paragon, pop it on, and you can see you can pretty quickly start mixing up your Saber parts to put together a few new designs. Not every design is going to look good. You're going to potentially think, oh, that will look great on that particular model, but it ends up looking fairly terrible. What I suggest that you don't do if you're looking to buy a couple of Sabers and maybe mix some parts up is get a couple of Sabers with two completely different decorative styles and start mixing and matching. That's where it might start looking a little bit goofy. But as far as these particular models go, I mean, if I wanted to take the body from the Vortex, pop it on the Affine like so, and then just go and pop on either that one or that one, I still end up with a fairly okay looking model. So yes, to some degree that you do have that option across our range of Sabers. There will of course be exceptions, one of which is, like I said, our super popular feed model, which is still by far one of my favourite and most recommended models for if you want to duel. When you're dueling, you have other considerations than just buying one to wave around for cosplay or just at a meet for choreography example. You might want to switch between single and double-handed grips, for example, and the extra length that you get on the Fugue model, a couple of centimeters, makes a difference between it being a two-handed and a comfortable two-handed hilt and a cramped two-handed hilt. The extra couple of centimeters that you get on the Fugue allows you to do that. So the Fugue model is a great model for dueling. But is it intercompatible with the other models? Well, no. One of the reasons is you've got male and female threads are reversed on the design. That's just a consequence of how you have to manufacture certain designs. So in that case, that would not be able to screw onto the bottom of that hilt because you have two male threads. I'm not even sure that they're possibly the same thread. I think these threads are actually different to the ones on the pommel. But across these four, you have thread compatibility, which makes for an easy life, and like I said, opens up those options for using them, swapping your parts around. Now I will say there's one exception with the compatibility of the fugue with these other models. Now in most cases the pommel sections will actually use the same thread. Okay, so you notice this is a female thread in here, you've got a male thread on the bottom. The obvious thing to try would be, hey, does that one screw into here? And the answer to that is yes, which I will do off camera because it's easier. So the only way you can kind of use the fugue model with some of the other models is if you wanted a staff, and those two parts will quite happily screw together. If you wanted to use some of the other models as a staff, you of course have the issue of having two male threads on the bottom of your saber. Slightly freaky, so you need a coupler. We have a range of couplers that have just arrived. They'll be added to the store by the time you watch this video. It just happens that the Padawan model actually comes with this as the pommel. The pommel actually comes with a double thread, purposely as a double threaded pommel. The reason being, people love these as staffs, so they actually save people the cost of having to buy a coupler by shipping the saber effectively with a coupler already. So if you had a Padawan model and then most of the other models in the range, your couplers there, you can actually join these together as a staff. Now these are the two very contrasting designs, so possibly the worst example ever, but you can see you can actually form a staff from these. I will note there is absolutely no guarantee that your buttons are going to line up. They just happen to on those particular models. Haven't tried it with that one actually. But even on high-end sabers like Saber Trio, Saber Forge and the like, sometimes the threads just, and the saber gods do not align, and you end up with a saber where your buttons don't line up. It's a minor cosmetic niggle, and if you're using this as a staff, you're going to be doing combat with it, and that's probably not going to be a major concern. So, but just be aware that if you use a coupler to join a couple of hilts together, you're not guaranteed that those buttons are going to line up. You probably don't care. My wife thinks I've got mild OCD. I think I've got moderate OCD because things like that would bug the hell out of me. But that is just something to be aware of. Okay, so there we go. That's just a little overview of some of the little tricks that you can get up to by playing around with a bit of part swapping. Don't assume that everything's going to be cross-compatible. So if you've got any questions, just come along, ask me first. So we're building up a little bit of knowledge about what's compatible with what as we bring them in, and we should be able to order your question, answer your questions, so you don't get stuck with a couple of sabers that don't interchange. Okay, any more cues, just pop them through. Always happy to help. Bye bye.